Sairam everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. Okay, this video podcast presentation was recorded during last year Christmas. I just thought of re-editing it and releasing it on this Christmas this year. I hope everybody enjoy the significant messages in this podcast, and I hope everyone have a great Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone, and Jai Sai Ram, and advance Happy New Year also.
ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरि ॐ ॐ श्रीं ह्रीं क्लीं ग्लौं गं गणपतये वरवरद सर्वजनं मे वशमानाय स्वाहा ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Sairam, Lyn.
Sairam Sharma, my thanks to Bhagawan again for giving us this opportunity to speak of his divine life and of Prasanti Nilayam and of the great power that Bhagawan exudes. As Pun Avatar, he told us there are 16 dimensions, and I, Sri Sathya Sai, am active continuously in all 16 dimensions. You, as human beings, are in 3 dimensions, and so you are only aware of these 3. When I am creating vibhuti and other objects, I am working in the 4th and 5th dimensions. One of the group said, Swami, we want to know about these other dimensions. Please tell us. And Swami smiled like a gentle dad and pinched his cheek and said, you do not have the gray matter, i.e. brain power, to understand these other dimensions. Focus on your sadhana, find out who you are. That is enough. But of course, we as human beings are very, very keen to know anything that we can about these divine dimensions. And the Swami kindly permitted me to have some glimpses of these while I was in the ashram. Bearing in mind that Swami said within these ashram walls, Prasanti Nilayam is pure positive energy. When you leave the confines of Prasanti Nilayam and re-enter your country, you come up against a wall of negative energy. And you will sometimes, after leaving Prasanti, you will feel sad and sometimes sick. And this is because you have come up against this wall of negative energy. It surrounds every country, and it is created by the negative thoughts, words, and deeds of the people who are living in that country. We can't see it, but I mean, there are many forces, what Swami calls unseen forces, that can affect us adversely if we are not fully focused on him at all times. I'm going to talk about some experiences that Swami revealed to me in the ashram of angels and divine beings, which can be seen if he wills it. In fact, there are several incidents. Kasturi himself, Professor Kasturi, recorded an incident when he, before Sai Kulwant Hall was built, there was, of course, just the front of the original ashram with the balcony and the silver doors. Kasturi's office was down right beside the mandir in those days, where he was working on Swami's life story and also on Sanatana Sarati. He noticed that after evening darshan, which used to finish around 5 o'clock thereabouts, in the dusk, evening dusk time, maybe it's around 7 o'clock, Swami would go out onto the balcony and be still raising his hands, even though the whole courtyard in front of the mandir was empty. And Kasturi said, Swami, what are you doing? I see you go out there every night. It is just getting dark and you are raising your hands. What are you doing? And Swami said, come up here. Come up and I will show you when the time is come. And so Kasturi was standing up there with Swami. Swami waved his hands, and suddenly Kasturi could see that this empty courtyard was indeed filled with all kinds of disembodied beings. There were angelic beings, there were demonic beings, there were souls that had not been reborn. And Swami said, see, many of them are praying to me that they be reincarnated. Suri was so shocked by this that he fainted. He promptly fainted before begging Swami to take it all away. He could not take the sight of this. And I myself, I have tried to imagine what it would be like. It was simply too much for Kasturi. There were Jack Hislop records a time when he went with Swami to visit a family. He saw Swami get out of the car, and some angels also came out of the car, as the lady of the house had not had time to prepare food. And Hislop records in My Baba and I seeing two angels get out of the car bearing a silver serving dish filled with food. And Hislop said that at the end of the meal, Swami gifted this food tureen to the family. It was very ornate, beautiful silver object. Now, the subject of angels is something that people, if they are not even Sai devotees, they are very interested in, bearing in mind that there are many kinds of angelic beings. Indeed, the name Mata, which Swami gifted to Mata Betty, can mean mother, but it can also mean senior being. Swami explained this to us, and indeed Mata Betty was a divine being in my book, because so many miraculous events happened all around her. Sometimes she would come out of darshan area. It was a time when we had to carry, as ladies, a clear plastic purse. It could only be a small purse, and we could only carry our room key and maybe a little bit of money. And Mata would come out of the darshan area, and her little plastic purse would be full of amrit. And she would say, look at this, then I've got to clean it out every day. Swami's doing this. And I'd say, oh, Ma, please give me a drink of this amrit. This is so beautiful, as you know, the Swami's divine nectar. Another time it was Christmas Eve, 2012. Swami had already left his body by then, but I was watching his samadhi, and I saw a beautiful mist, sparkling mist rise, almost like a thin fog, rise from his samadhi, and it was like a beautiful cloud. And other people saw this. When I went back to Radio Sai and spoke to some of the boys, they said, oh, yes, we have also seen this. That is the love of Swami's devotees meeting the love of Bhagwan, forming this beautiful fog, sparkling mist, so it had tiny lights in it. At Christmas time, several of the old residents of the ashram told me that they had formed an angel squad. And these three ladies, all of whose husbands were senior office bearers in the ashram, these ladies would go to various places in the ashram in the evening, for example, after darshan, and you could see little tiny sparkling lights. And you could see these lights in the morning. These were not lightning bugs or fireflies, not at all. The lady said these are the angelic beings. They take many forms and they have many sizes. One Christmas I was there, and I was working with the children who were rehearsing for the play, the children's nativity play. It was in the Punachandra. And Swami happened to stroll in, and he told the children, go outside and see the angels. And some of the children rushed outside. I was talking to one of the little boys. I said, what did you see? He was 9 years old. He said, we saw coming down out of the sky, going round and round. We saw big white forms. They looked like big white mosquitoes with something hanging down. And they were singing the most beautiful music. I could not see this. I didn't see it myself, but the children all saw it. So Swami, would create chances for people to see the divine beings in the ashram, particularly at Christmas, when Swami said the veil is very thin. The vibrations are so strong in the ashram that normally these beings are there all the time. We can't see them. But during Christmas time, the vibrations are very strong. One Christmas when I was there, Swami gave a discourse, and he said, I wrote this down in my notebook, above this ashram are 3 more ashrams in other dimensions. The spirit which you call Jesus, which is the Christ consciousness, dwells in the topmost ashram. That would be the 3rd ashram in another dimension above Prasanti Nilayam Mandir. Swami said, on Christmas Eve, that spirit, which you call the Christ consciousness, descends from that ashram, enters Kulwant Hall, travels to the center of the earth through a point in the floor of the inner altar room of Kulwant. There, in the center of the earth, that spirit, the Christ consciousness, resides for 3 days, radiating his love and peace to all the world. On the 3rd day, 27th December, that spirit begins to rise again, passes through the floor of the inner mandir, and ascends back to the topmost ashram above Prasanti Nilayam. This was very, very relevant for me because I often helped with the decorations. The decorations go up on Christmas Eve and are taken down on the 27th of December in the ashram. Swami also said during a discourse that when we are born, we are married. There are 4 times in our life when God is present with all of his angels in our lives. Number 1, at our birth. Number 2, at the day we are named or christened. Number 3, on the day we are married, when our marriage takes place. And number 4, on the day of our passing from this earth, on the day of our death. God is there in full power with all of his angels. He also said that when the person is born, they are accompanied by a group of angelic beings who precede that person as they walk through life, saying, make way for the incarnation of the Lord. If the person begins to misbehave or get involved in crime or bad behaviors, some of these beings can leave. They are not bound to stay with the person, and so the wall of protection that is afforded to that person by the presence of these heavenly beings guarding them. We have all heard of the idea of the guardian angel. It's a real thing, and it's not some imagination. If that person is misbehaving or constantly not correcting their bad habits, some of these guardians can leave, and they are more subject to maleficent forces. Swami was very clear about angelic beings, and of course, in the Bible, there are many references to angels, both in the Old Testament and in the New Testament. An angel appears to the Virgin Mary and tells her that she is going to conceive a son who is the Son of God. As far as Shirdi Baba goes, there are several records of him being surrounded by divine beings. We cannot imagine what these beings look like, because as Swami said, we are in 3 dimensions, and these divine beings inhabit other dimensions. The sight of a divine being is something that I will never forget. Of course, my first divine being is our Lord Bhagavan, Sri Sathya Sai. When I was in a darshan line one day, this was before Kulwant Hall was built, and we would sit outside in what was called the arches. On the ladies' side, we sat on concrete, on cushions or mats, and Swami would circumambulate this area. He would usually come to the ladies' side first, and when he first stood in front of me, after several days of being in the ashram, I did not see Swami at all. I saw a magnificent human being with a yellow gown, or more of like a yellow dhoti with jewels and a sparkling headdress. I had no idea who this being could be. It wasn't what I pictured Sathya Sai Baba as being. He suddenly changed his appearance and allowed me to see him as this completely different divine being. I made a drawing of it, and when I showed it to a Krishna devotee, they said, "Oh, that is a young Lord Krishna. You are seeing the young Lord Krishna." Another incident I saw with Swami was when he was walking out on the veranda, and I suddenly saw a circular golden ball preceding him. It was just like a shining plate of gold, and it had a glow around it. I thought, what can this be? And I heard a voice within me say, "Your service precedes you as a golden light." And whenever Swami walked, I kept seeing this golden plate of light not walking, but floating in front of him. I will never forget that sight. It was very mysterious. No one else, of course, saw it but me, but he was gracious enough to let me see this very, obviously this was from another dimension. And I can definitely tell you I had not been fasting. I am not a person who fasts. I enjoy my food far too much. I was fully aware of what was happening all around me, and I was open to it. I would quite often pray to Swami, "Swami, show me you in all of your aspects I want to see." And so that led to several encounters with divine beings in the ashram, which appeared in my room, and which I made drawings of. I was not asleep. I was not dreaming. One night, my husband was sleeping. As you may know, in the ashram, there are single beds, even if you are a couple. And my husband was sleeping, but I was reading a book. It was the book by Swami Rama, Masters of the Himalayas. And I was so engrossed in this book that I took it into the bathroom and was reading it in there. I was sitting on a little chair. Previously, a lovely lady resident of the ashram, Mrs. Godavari Pala, had said to me, "Lyn, you need to have a little altar in your room. I will lend you this small coffee table and this lace cover. You will get some things from the village. You can get a picture of Swami. You can get a little incense burner, some candlesticks, and make a little altar to Swami. He will like that, and you can do your meditation in front of this altar." So I had done that. The little coffee table was set up there in our room. About 11 o'clock, I knew that it was probably way past the bedtime of 9 o'clock, but I had not been able to put this book down. When I walked into the room, it was a ground floor room. The street light from outside in the ashram was shining a very soft light through the window, and the coffee table had disappeared. And lying in its place was a long divan, like a day bed, and lying on that divan was Lord Ganesh. He was all the most silvery color. His ears were moving softly and slowly. I could see his eyes. They were silvery, and they had the most peaceful, beautiful look. He was holding a fan in one hand, and in his other hand, which was lying alongside his body, he was holding something I can only describe as a whisk, which had a silver handle and what looked like a brush of long white fibers. I don't know what this object is. I didn't at the time. I later discovered that this is an object that is used for distributing tirth, holy water. But I didn't know what it was at the time. My eyes were fixed on this thing. I didn't know what it was. I thought, surely Lord Ganesh isn't doing some house cleaning here. It looks a little bit like a cleaning brush, but it's all silver. And how the mind works when it sees something out of the ordinary, starts running around like, what is this? My mind is trying to decipher this. I could feel in the room a feeling of the greatest peace, like I have never, ever experienced. And he did not speak. He simply kept gazing at me. I am a trained artist and illustrator, so I quietly grabbed my sketch pad and a pencil and began to draw him because I knew I wasn't dreaming, and I still have these drawings. I can't tell you how much time went by. My husband was snoring away peacefully. I was wanting to wake him up, but I didn't want to spoil the magic of this moment of actually having the darshan of Lord Ganesh. And then at one point, finally, nature called. I had to go into the bathroom. And when I came out, everything was back as normal. Ganesh was no longer there. The coffee table was back in place with the altar. But I have the drawings, and I still have the drawings. That night, I dreamed of Lord Ganesh. He was holding a japa mala made of pearls. He removed one of the pearls and gave it to me. In the morning, I woke up looking under my bed. I was actually on the floor looking under the bed for the pearl, which of course wasn't there because it was a pearl in another dimension. Again, I got out my sketch pad and did a drawing. I still have these drawings. Perhaps in the future we can post the pictures of these drawings that I made of divine beings. Another time, in the ashram, I had been spending a lot of time going into the hall in the mandir, the inner altar room for Omkar and Suprabhatam, and I was always so fascinated by the atmosphere in the most holy of holies. And I would often look up at the ceiling where there are images of all the avatars. And I used to love the sound of the birds coming in and out, the chirping in the early morning hours, and the mysterious forms of the previous avatars looking down on me. I used to think there is no more sacred place on this planet than Prasanti Nilayam. And in this inner altar room, I call it the altar room. I believe it does have other names. But in any case, one morning I went for Omkar, and then I came back to my room and fell asleep. In the dream, there was just light. I remember waking up thinking, where is all this light coming from? When I woke up, I could see very clearly in my room a silver cart with 4 wheels, and on it, seated in the lotus position, was an enchanting child who seemed to be like a dwarf. His skin was again silver, like Lord Ganesh, but a rosy glow was vibrating beneath this silvery skin. His hand was up in blessing. There was an image on his hand that looked like the chakra, the wheel, and the conch. The little cart was rolling past me, and again I grabbed my sketchbook and sketched this beautiful little divine being. I had no idea who he was. The vision eventually faded. There was just a sparkling mist left behind. I was so bemused. Who could this be? I took it to my friend, Mrs. Pala, who was a long-time resident in the ashram. She studied it. She said, that is Lord Vamana. I said, who is Lord Vamana? She said, well, he was one of the avatars of Lord Vishnu. There is no temple at all to Lord Vamana in India, but you will see his image in the mandir. There is a little Lord Vamana. He is the child dwarf, and because of his avatar, festival Onam is celebrated to this day in the Indian state of Kerala. Again, this was a whole new avenue of inspection and study for me, and I still have that drawing of Lord Valana. You see, we can't explain these events. Indeed, there was quite a famous event in Prasanti Nilayam of a man who happened to be walking early in the morning in the ashram, and he saw the statue of Lord Ganesh, which is in the meditation gardens, come alive and start making his way towards Prasanti Nilayam Mandir. We can't explain these things, but through Swami's grace, he gives us the opportunity sometimes to see these divine beings. There were several other wonderful events that took place on seeing these divine beings, but you don't always have to be in Prasanti Nilayam to see them. There are divine beings in the world. I've spoken of this before, and if you are fortunate enough to meet them, they will display various abilities. They are not the kind of being that you will see by your own will. It is their will that you see them. This was experienced many times by the late Australian devotee and white lion, Arthur Hillcott. Arthur described to me many incidents where he met divine beings, mainly when he was roaming in the Himalayas. And we will speak of this in another recording where Arthur met the great Mahavatar Babaji. When I was walking once on the beach here in New Zealand, I suddenly saw Swami standing close to the shore, and he said, "Would you like to see the angels?" I said, "Yes, Swami." And the waves were rolling in, and they suddenly became covered in flowers, all kinds of divine flowers, such as roses. There was a beautiful fragrance in the air. I live on a very remote beach in New Zealand, and Swami pointed out small children that were angelic beings rolling in the waves. He said, "These are known by some as cherubim. They give me a lot of trouble. They have a bad habit of shooting golden needles into the hearts of people who are not destined to fall in love with each other. They give me a lot of trouble." And these were the most mischievous, jolly little children that you could imagine, laughing and playing amongst the bubbles in the waves. I think they would be somewhat like the paintings we see of cherubs. Then another raft of angelic beings appeared. They were blue. They were about 10 feet tall. Swami said, "These are the angels of justice. Never seek revenge. It is the job of these angelic beings to administer justice." Then another roll of waves revealed white angelic beings with sets of wings which covered both their face and their arms. And Swami said, "These are the seraphim. They have no ego. They have no will of their own. They simply exist to do God's bidding. They obey him instantly." By this time, I was in so much bliss, I could take no more of seeing these divine beings. And the next thing I knew, everything had disappeared from my view. The ocean was as it was before, and I was alone on the beach, but covered in waves of bliss. During my interview, one of my interviews with Swami, he revealed his halo. I looked up at him, and I could see the light getting brighter and brighter around his head. It was white light, very similar to what you see in a welding torch, and it was edged with gold. It kept getting bigger and bigger. Swami was looking upward, moving his hand in an upward rotation movement, and I sensed that he was looking up at clouds of divine beings who were clustered above him in the interview room. Again, we cannot imagine what these dimensions are like or what the jobs of these divine beings are. We can only aspire to be as good an angel in training pants as we can, by doing good, seeing good, and being good. Another amazing incident happened when I was volunteering for the Easwaramma Women's Welfare Trust, which was in those days situated in the upper offices of the North Canteen. We had been given the assignment of making a video of the activities of the Easwaramma Women's Welfare Trust. Swami himself gave the orders for the day of the trust, and my superiors had given me the job of coordinating some video footage of the projects that were underway in the ashram. We set up a camera early in the morning on the second floor of the North Canteen because we simply wanted to get some footage of the fountains that come on watering the grass in the early morning as an opening shot. We had the camera on continuous filming, and when we developed the film, there was a woman walking backwards and forwards in the footage. There had not been a single person there when we were filming. However, this was an older lady. She was had white hair. She looked vaguely familiar to me, but when we were running the raw footage for one of the office bearers at Easwaramma, she gasped and she said, "That is Mother Easwaramma." She passed, of course, many years ago. She said, "We better erase this because some people might recognize Mother Easwaramma in the footage and want to know how you were able to capture her on video." Indeed, some of the boys who used to attend Swami in Yajar Mandir would see a woman, an Indian lady, sometimes seated outside Swami's door. They would say, "Swami, how did that lady get in here?" Because there was only elevator access to Swami's room. Swami said, "That's my mother. She has come from Vaikuntha Loka. She's bringing me a belt. She's telling me not to take handkerchiefs from people offering me handkerchief in the darshan line. She is my mother, and she is still keeping watch over me. She is still worried about me, even though she is now in her astral form, living in the most blessed realm of Vaikuntha Loka. She is often here checking up on me." And I found this very amusing because a good mother, of course, will never forget her child. She will always be worried about her child, even though he is 50, 60, 70 years old. And of course, she has left her body. She will still be checking on her beloved child. I hope you have enjoyed some of these stories. I thought it would be a pleasant thing to dwell on these divine images. Here we are at the beginning of a new year, and may we all aspire to be Swami's angels. I think, when someone says to you, you are an angel, you are like an angel to me, that could maybe be one of the most sweet compliments that we can offer to our Lord. He wants us to be as good as we can be, do good, be good, see good, because that is what an angel is. Om Shri Sai Ram, and happy 2024.
Happy 2024. Om Sai Ram, Lyn.